Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Just a few words in Hebrew, and then we'll continue in English. ערב טוב לכולם, שמחים שהצטרפתם גם בימים טרופים אלו. יש לנו היום מרצה מרומניה, מהמכון הארכיאולוגי הארכיטקטוני בבוקרשט, ועוד אורחים, ולכן המפגש יערך בשפה האנגלית, ברשותכם. Good evening again. Welcome to this series of international lectures. It's a 7-week program in Zoom meeting, and it usually takes place either in Tuesdays or on Wednesdays. I want, first of all, to thank again the organizers of this event, Professor Michael Finkenthal, Dr. Ronit Milano, and Mrs. Michaela Janco-Dada, whom together with me organized this event. This series of lectures are also supported by the Department of the Arts at the Ben-Gurion University in the Negev in Beersheva. To those of you who doesn't know where is Beersheva, you should take into consideration that we are right now under a missile attack. It's actually a war. And it takes place especially in the south part of Israel, and Beersheva is on the south. And this is why I'm not sure how many people from Beersheva are with us today, but I hope we'll have a quiet event, and those of you from the south wouldn't have to run to the shelters in case of a missile attack. I'm sorry, it doesn't have anything to do with the lecture today or with art, but we have to talk about it. So today, once again, we meet. This is the second meeting. This series of lectures are under the title Marcel Janco and the Dada Spirit. And today we are very proud to host Professor Dr. Ioan Augustin. He is from the Institute of Architecture in Bucharest, Romania. And he's going to talk about something very special in the activity of Marcel Janco, his inventions of alphabet of forms. And let's hear Ioan. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to share the screen with you because this is about Marcel Janco, so we are going to see much of it. Which is going to be like this. I'm going to speak for about half an hour maybe about the project that we did starting in 2003. So a long time ago, 18 years ago. And then if you have questions or comments or whatever, I would be happy to respond by 7 p.m. I have to join another meeting with the Fulbright 75th anniversary. Anyway, I'm in no rush. I just want to share the joy with you of this project that we yearly develop. And as we speak, some of my students are already online here. You can see them well. You can see their names anyway. They are already working on the next stage of this particular project. They didn't finish it, so I don't have to show you anything from this year, but you have to trust me. I'm going to show you stuff, recent stuff, and some of the things we did at the beginning. What is this project about? In 1924, in Contemporano, his avant-garde journal, Marcel Janco published a so-called formal alphabet, which is this one. It's a number of drawings. I also have an image of the, maybe I should show you the image of the, oops, sorry about that. I have to have open with something else. There we go. It's here in the on the black background. This is the original publication of it. It's a number of letters from A, if there are letters. Okay, if we accept this convention that Janco proposed to us to have an alphabet, that means we have letters. So we have a number of letters, let's say from A, if this is the first, to E, which is the last one. Okay, and seeing this, which was by chance in an album dedicated to his work, and no comment from Marcel Janco on that particular. In the same place, we have also found, and I'll show you in a minute, a series of so-called architecture drawings, he called them. Now, we were sure that those were about architecture, although they were very abstract, as you will see in a minute. So we had a folded approach at the beginning. We said, listen, we have an alphabet. Phonemes, graphemes, let's say. This is a graphic representation of a letter or a sign. If we have the letters, can we write? Whenever I'm using words from, tonight, whenever I'm using words from language, you have to understand the brackets, okay? So it's just a metaphor. So we have the alphabet, we have the letters, can we write words? And that would be a first step. The second step, if we have words, do they have meaning? Can they have meaning? Third question is if they have meaning, if we have words and they have some sort of a meaning, can we write sentences? And so we started to develop kind of, let's say, semiotic kind of questions. The second approach was this. In this line of presentation, we have found drawings by Marcel Janco called architecture drawings. The way they look is stuff he couldn't have designed. He couldn't have built in any way. He could have designed, but he couldn't have built at the time. Let me give an example. Here in the black, in the right-hand side, you have one of those drawings. And then my students started to look at these architecture drawings and, let's say, extract a formal language from that architecture. Let's say this is the plan of a building. Let's say this is the maybe the shape and the details and the entrances and all of that. And they started working with that. Some other those are the first I forgot to mention. This is the 2003 examples. I'm using them just to show you how young we were in our approach. The other students, we started with 3 or 4 students at the beginning. Now there are a lot more. Every year we had a number of students working on the project. These guys said, listen, if we are using this alphabet, these drawings, as signs, a building or an object, urban object, say, like a bench or like a little fountain or something. If those are signs that an object lives on the ground. So we have the traces left on the ground. Let's imagine the building that left those traces. That's very simple. Like projecting an object on different planes and then, let's say, recompose the object. And that would be the results of the first stage of the project. They had to add everything else. So you had the traces, but you have to invent everything else and then discuss the issue of, this is another of the architectural drawings by Marcel Janco, and see what the students did with it. That was the first team. It's their picture in the photos. look, the architecture drawing by Marcel Dada, and then they started to work. And in doing this kind of deconstruction, to use a contemporary term, you know, the constructivism, at least in architecture, started with the Russian constructivists. It's a continuation after, you know, half a century. It's a continuation of the constructivist project. And we said, listen, we continue projects that were left unfinished by Marcel, who is the most prominent of the avant-garde architects who are in a way or another connected to Romania. Another of those drawings and the result by students. That's for the first. I think I have one or two more. Yeah, those are urban objects, like a bench, like a fountain, starting with the same signs. Look, you see the sign here, and what's happening with it as it gains volume and it sort of springs up from those original drawings. And then that was the first. We should, there we go, close that one. And then we kept on developing that, and went all the way. I'm just going to show you some of the projects, but you have to understand the principle. The principle is this: you have three stages. First is introducing into the computer, introducing some sort of initial data, we call that. In this case, 1, 2, 3, I think that's the maximum we did so far, letters from the alphabet. So you have initial data. Then you have an algorithm. You tell the computer what to do with those 1, 2, 3 initial data. What's the computer going to do? How is going to combine them? The rules are almost infinite. If you want to keep the analogy with the wording, is how you bring together different signs, different sounds, as we speak, into something that has meaning, a word. Some of them worked on, you know, let's use the letter A, the first sign, as the ground, and then you have the letter B, and then you have the letter C coming and collapsing, intersecting the common volume, and you see some of those. Some others, one other student that was really crazy. Again, the alphabet, as you know, should open it with something. Oops. Open with photos. There you go. So he started again. Everybody's starting from the same, and this is the original data. What they are doing is a little story about fractal geometry that you, I'm sure, know. And they use one of the letters as the base of a future fractal, and its contour, its surrounding, let's say, line as a contour, and then it's going to behave as a sort of a fractal going up and down in sort of complexity. What's happening if we're doing that? First, 0. Those are the bases. And then they start to complexify. So one is the base, the next one is the rule, what to do. And as you can see, they keep on developing. My dear student, he's now abroad. He's an architect, but he works abroad. At the time said, Professor, I have a problem. Look at what the computer is doing. Should I unplug it? He said. That was the solution, because they keep getting more and more complex. So from those letters in Marcel Janco's alphabet, you can proceed towards fractal geometry. This has a very interesting, not with this particular project, but this has a very interesting application in contemporary urban planning, by the way. As you can see, this starts to behave and look like a sort of urban structure agglomeration of something. When I say agglomeration of something, and something is because those objects, and this is a process that we call morphogenesis, the making of a form. And as we go towards within this process of morphogenesis, you should pay attention to these facts. A, this is a process where you do not have scales. None of the shapes that you see on the screen now have a scale. We don't know how tall is it or how large is it or whatever. You have to, when I said this is a word, does it have meaning? You can attribute to this particular word that you wrote with those letters some sort of meaning, and some sort of meaning can be, again, urban, or it can be architecture. You know, so you're going to see both. So in the upper part, you see the letters from the alphabet, and then you see what's happening with them as when they behave as fractals. So that was it. That was one way of using the alphabet. Some of the more recent projects were absolutely insane because they are very, well, not insane. I mean it in the good way, because they contribute to not just with the original alphabet, but they contribute with some contemporary, let's say, instances of Dadaism and of counterculture, let's say, of the post-avant-garde and stuff like that. So they did a sort of for example, this project done by two of my students, the Burning Man Festival. They're talking about an ephemeral city that's once a year, except for the last one when it was because of the pandemics. But otherwise, you have this pop-in, pop-out, I don't know how to call it, instant city, which is temporary. It has to do with arts and so on. And these students of mine said, how about we use the Marcel Janco's alphabet to do sort of art installations that also use as shelter for people coming to the Burning Man Festival. And they started again with the alphabet, turning it into graphic schemes, like signs in, like letters in our alphabet, and then work with them. It's in English, so you can look at it. Overlapping, joining, intersection, subtraction, exclusion, common sign. All those procedures are valid from their point of view. Some of, let's say, you can have an extruded letter collapsing, intersecting 90 degrees, or not necessarily 90 degrees, but intersecting with a rotating other letter. Let's see what happens when you do that. So they did the combination, the matrix of each possible combination letters from A to E, from A to E, and then you have AA to EE. That would be the last one. All the combinations possible to do this Burning Man location. Look at it. They grow. I forgot to mention that, so that the guys in the back can still see the center of this site. I don't want to call it city. And then you have this very funny, very interesting, very challenging, whatever they are. When they place that on the ground, they attributed some sort of a scale, because the objects, again, as they result from the process, they have no scale. That can be, again, a shelter. It's an installation, they said. But it's not very difficult to imagine that this is because you have the grass here, and this is something which has 2 floors, right? So it's more like a house. And here as well, and here as well, and so on and so forth. So we have this exercise that tells us it's really important to give the scale at the end. So if you want to have architecture, you have to say this object is in fact something that has, I don't know, 10 by 10 by 10. That will make a perfect 3-floor house. Let's see, this guy is talking about imaginary spaces. And he's working again with the same, let me put it a little bit upward. Maybe I should open it. Anyway. He's doing whatever he's doing with the letter, he's doing it also in a mirror. It's a symmetrical from a diagonal, it's a rotation symmetry. So he's doing that because he wants to have some sort of urban space at the end, not as an object, but an object in relation to another object, in this case, a rotating image of the self. And then he's doing whatever he's doing with the two letters, intersections, common space, common shape, and so on and so forth. And you have something like a little community of forms. Again, letter A with its symmetrical. So he's doing the simple letter, he's copying the letter and rotates it, he's extruding and rotating, and then it's an intersection of the resulting. You can see it here. This is the original letter. This is the original letter plus its rotating version, extrusion and rotation, and then you have the resulting volumes. Letter B, the same process. As you can see, it gets even more and more complex, but then if again, it's a question of scale. If those are buildings or objects with a certain scale, then you have courtyards, you have corridors or streets or whatever. So let's say their architecture qualities are built in, but you have to set them free, so to speak. And you'll see some of those objects, letter D and so on and so forth. The same process with each of the letters. So he's not working with two letters in the same time. He's working with the letter and its symmetrical, rotated symmetrical, so to speak. And what he gets at the end, this is very interesting, is furniture. I was expecting, like big buildings and urban spaces, and he said, okay, I can do big spaces and like streets and whatever I told you earlier, but I'm interested in designing some Marcel Janco furniture. And here it is. From that particular letter, you get those particular objects. This is a Marcel Janco chair. If you put the chair in a position because you have to sit on it, this will be the result. Can we see something else? Yes, we can. Letter B. This is a Marcel Janco chair starting with the letter B. This is lightning. This is a lightning system starting from the same letter. And he did this meticulous process. This is another Marcel Janco chair starting, and this is, I don't know, podium. If you go to Ioan Museum and want to give a conference, a lecture, you will sit on and speak from this pulpit. C and so on. He did the same thing with another kind of chair, very, how do I say, cubist. Furniture objects, starting from the formula for this is another chair. This is another chair starting from that particular, and it's more like a sofa if you ask me, but it's quite nice. Look at this. And he said, because I said, oh, look, we have to, and he said, look, within those urban spaces, start the design with the same kind of process. You can have tiny objects, like not tiny, but furnitures and urban scale objects with the same process. This is something very, very strange about this kind of the morphogenesis, as we call them, bottom-up design processes, because you don't have a scale. With the same process, you design a process, you don't design objects. You give the object the third level that I forgot to mention. So I said initial data, I said an algorithm, what to do. but it has to stop. So you need to have, you need to show the computer when to stop. Please stop when you reach a certain dimension, a certain kind of complexity, and so on. So if you want, with the same process, you can design furniture. With the same process, you can design buildings, cities, galaxies, and it can go on forever, right? So that's, let's see what I have here. It's okay, but I have to open with. Okay. Some say, listen, we are going to do just houses because we know, I mean, we can address, we can point towards Marcel Janco's own houses and see. This is something I remember I present, not those, but some older versions. I presented this in Jerusalem. There was a conference on the avant-garde, and it was Marcel Janco's daughter, and the lady said, really looks like Marcel Janco's. Of course it does, because the ingredients are there. The initial data is from Marcel Janco. Of course there are features bringing from that alphabet that are to be found in the resulting objects. And the resulting object, this guy said, listen, you have to stop when you reach 10 by 10 by 10, because I want villas, okay? 3 floors. This guy says, why stop? Because I want a ground, let's say, city, how do I say, ground floor. I want a city ground floor, and that would be the intersection of 2 letters. But the third, which is the plan, I want to build skyscrapers with Marcel Janco's. He didn't have the chance to build skyscraper. Well, I can do that. Look. So I keep on extruding the base letter. I keep on extruding it. And then at just the ground floor, I'm bombarding it with 2 others coming left and right. Let's see if I have. That's it. It's the same image. Some guys said, listen, very interesting. Let's talk about alphabets. Let's have a comparison. Let's see what's going on here. And they came up with the question. Can we make more letters? So he started with from A to E. Can we go all the way to Z or W or whatever the last letter is? You know, and he did a matrix with, you know, alphabets that he knew about, all the new, and okay, he said this is the starting point. Again, that's even the original picture, as I told you. And they started asking questions. Is this really an alphabet? Is that like a solid language? Can you do absolutely everything with it? Does it need expansion, and so on and so forth, and so forth. Much more theory. He said, look, please, I'm reconstructing this whole idea, and I'm reconstructing the letters because I'm trying to find the rule. I mean, how come that Marcel Janco draw these letters as such and not differently? So he was trying to find the rules of composition within letters. If he said, if I can find, and he's doing just that. He explains the most simple is letter A, the most complicated is letter. He explains why, how are they composed, and if I'm doing that, oh, stop. If I am doing this process, he said, if I understand how they are made, I can keep on doing them. Look, this is the last one, right? In Marcel Janco's alphabet. Can I go on? He said, what if I can make syllabus, is this an English word? I don't remember. You know, if I break the word into parts, that would be a syllabus. And he's trying to do that. From E, he keeps on producing letters. What if they are words? And he's just sampling in this presentation, he's just sampling how he can write. Of course, they are random, you know, words, 3, 4, 5, from 2 to 5 letter words. Can I write a haiku? He asks himself, like a small poem. And he did, for example, he did that. He wrote the sentence, "Architecture is beautiful." It looks kind of funny from the. Anyway, please meet the letters that Marcel Janco did not, as my student believes, did not write at the time. Gets even crazier than this. These guys are using processes to articulate within cubes, within squares, the existing letters, and then they are trying to address 3 mythological figures: Atlantis, like the island, Tower of Babel, and then the end of the earth, where the water is collapsing, it's falling down. If with the, he said, I can do it like my colleagues. I can do all these very nice shapes, cubes, with you know, like they did. I want to go a little bit further and enter mythologies. Well, please meet the end of the world, the gate of Tartar. Please meet Atlantis, and please meet the Tower of Babel, designed not by Marcel Janco, but using the ingredients in his formal alphabet. Overlapping in this case, they are developing sideways, and then you keep on overlapping them. That was a little bit bizarre, if you ask me, and again, I mean it in a very good way. I think I have another one, again, the alphabet. Okay, all of them felt the need to do something initially with the letters to sort of understand and organize them. For example, to put them into squares 9 by 9. Of course, you can imagine already it's about designing houses. 9 by 9, it's a very nice villa. And then to extrude each letter, and then see what's going on with extrusion. For example, these guys extrude. They worked with 3 extrusions meeting 90 degrees, X, Y, W. Explain the process. I asked them to explain the process because, again, this is not about a particular shape, a particular object. This is about understanding the process, how you start from initial conditions, initial data, what do you do, the process, the algorithm, and then do you stop it? He said 9 by 9 by 9. Okay, let's see. If you do that, what's happening? There you go. ABC, and it's important that, I mean, let me rephrase that. If A is the base, this is the shape you have. If B is the base, it's a completely different object. If C is the base, it's a completely different object, and so on. Architecturally speaking. So they started doing this process to the whole alphabet, the extrusion. And let's see what's happening. If the base letter is, so if the plan is A, you have that kind of object. A with B extruded, A with C extruded, A with D extruded, and so on. There you go. You have all the combination. You have the letters written on the side of the project. And with A, the first letter is always the base. It goes forever. See, that's my, I'm sort of anticipating this conclusion. The project goes forever. And that was just with the letter A. Now with the letter B, right? She's doing that with the whole alphabet, right? Now with the letter C, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bother you with that. By the way, if any of you are interested in that, I'll be happy to share it's Facebook group. It's called Marcel Janco Revolutions. If you want to join and discuss with us, we would be happy to have an input on the project. I'm moving on to G, H, and then of course here they all already turn into something more architectural. You see it, I mean, forget the colors. That was just to understand which one is which. Say, look, I did hundreds and hundreds of volumes, but only they explain here. Only some of them have architectural qualities. And here is the result. That will be a Marcel Janco neighborhood with individual villas, each of them different, each of them designed according to the same process. There's even a name for that. It's called mass customization. Nowadays, with the same process, you always produce objects that are different. So you make them. It's mass production, but it's a mass production of completely different projects, one from another. I'm not sure if let me check with this one. No, that's another. I think it's just the alphabet. The last one is that I'm going to show tonight. It's pretty much along the same lines. The original alphabet, letters as forms, and then they become objects. They have 2D forms, and then they become 3D objects. Rules, what to do with each of them, how are they constituted, what's their inside, what's their inner articulation and composition. And then what happens with she's doing a different kind of designing, because she's also sliding the 2 letters on the contour of a third one. You see, this is the contour here in gray, and the 2 are just moving around and are being extruded. They do get architectural forms. Okay, some of them are more or less bizarre, but it's also what's interesting about this project, that takes you to places, to visual places, which are unvisited, uninhabited yet. So it's a way to fresh up it's a way of freshening up the architecture language. Well, they even designed a church to prove their point. So, in conclusion, this is a I get a question if I'm, well, in a second I will answer all the questions. In conclusion, my conclusion will be this. This is 18 years so long. Just a hint of what's coming next. They are going to finish by summer, so I couldn't show you. At least one of them is very interesting because it's going into Kabbalah. Two of my students said that there's a connection between the number of letters and Kabbalah, Sephirotic.
Yes, you can build a world with the letters.
Exactly. So they are going into that. If you are interested, I'm going to present this. It's going to be on Facebook anyway. So if those of you, some of you are interested in that, the story goes on. It gets more and more complex. So our intervention on the alphabet is more and more complex and diverse. You see mythologies, you see imaginary spaces, you see Atlantis, you see Burning Man festival, you see all that, which is contemporary. But they always take off and land from Marcel Janco's alphabet. And to the students, I think it's a way of understanding how to design bottom up. It's a very stimulating exercise. It's not just Marcel Janco that we're working with. We are working with the Dunbar-Bilian spaces. We are working with Seika surfaces. Those are two Romanian mathematicians. The fact that they have this, let's say, in the cultural DNA, in their own cultural DNA, it's kind of extraordinary references. It's like a legacy, okay? It's not just Marcel Janco. You are going to see next week one of my mentors, Professor Zaharia, talking about his work, his built work. Projects, whatever, furniture he did, texts, whatever. He was very, very influential. But he also planted some time capsules. This is my argument. The drawings and the formal alphabet are time capsules, and the students are not only revering an old figure, the granddaddy of Romanian architecture. They also discover Marcel Janco, who's a fresh guy that can be augmented and updated, those two things that we were trying to do. And the results are always fascinating. I hope my presentation was clear, but it's an ongoing project. I can show you here, I can show you the Marcel Janco project. This is, and I'm always surprised by at least one or two projects proposed by my students. So it's beyond, it's not me, I'm not the author of that, it's Marcel Janco, and I'm trying to sort of send my students out of the nest, take off. Get Marcel Janco's alphabet and take off.
Ioan, if it's okay to have some comments, I just want to tell you that during your marvelous presentation, I was texting with Michaela Mende-Janco, and we said that it would be a real honor for us to check the possibility of hosting an exhibition of...
We would be absolutely delighted to do that, yes.
I mean, we saw only a few, but I'm sure there is a lot of material.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to be a curator or at least an advisor, I'll start thinking and think how we can do it. I think the works were magnificent, and on behalf of the museum and the Janco family, we really salute you. So now it's time for the questions. I noticed that there are two of them.
There are some questions. Can I answer those first, which are on chat?
Yeah, the ones on chat. And just before, could you write down the Facebook group so we can get inside and
it's
check.
Very easy. It's called Marcel Janco Evolution.
Good. So We'll get there, and we'll try to.
You get there, or you maybe can arrange to send me the email addresses, because it's a closed group. Of course, I want to.
Okay. I'll send you tomorrow.
I would be glad to invite you over if you send me the the whereabouts, who's wants to enter, what's the Facebook, so that I go to his address or her address and invite them.
Good. So
it's a beautiful project that keeps, it's like, it keeps on bubbling.
Yeah.
It has, how should I say, it reached the speed, the speed, and it keeps on producing itself as long as I have the enthusiasm of some of my students. Some of them are present, are here tonight.
And it has the Dada and the Janco spirit. That's,
exactly.
That's exactly again, what we want.
This is, I remember, again, that was a dear, is a dear memory of mine when his daughter said, this is, like, that is architecture. I said, yes, of course it is, like, because the ingredients are there. Is as if, in a way, as if Marcel Janco is still designing. Something like that happened, if I may say a sentence, with Zaha Hadid. Zaha Hadid, she died, but Zaha Hadid is still designing, because they managed to sort of digitalize her way of designing.
Yeah.
This is a way to do the same thing with Marcel Janco.
You did it. Okay, so now for the questions. First, the ones that are on the chat.
Right. First one is, I think it starts abruptly. It says, architecture forms and style was developed by Marcel Janco on modern and contemporary architecture. Thanks. I'm not sure I understand the question, but what I can tell you for sure is his work as an architect in Romania is one, if you ask me top 5 Romanian architects ever, Marcel Janco is amongst them. So that in itself, I mean, he didn't have to invent anything because he was modern. He came, I think he had to sort of slow down a little bit, of course, from the Dada movement, from the early years, because they had to build in Bucharest, in a very conservative country. Some of them were built in the Jewish community, but not all of them. There were people with open to modern experiments and stuff like that. So he was modern. He was influential via his publication with Contemporane and all that avant-garde atmosphere in the 20s and 30s in Romania. And then the atmosphere has changed and the war came and he had to leave. Here's the link to the Face group. Hope it works. Somebody, Corina, thank you. Corina Frățică has posted to you the connection to the group. What was the other question? Oh, there you go. I have to go up. The impact of that was the rest of the question. It was sorry. The impact of I answered that. I'm glad the house Mr. Janco built in Romania are using the language. No. He could not. That is a hypothesis. He could not have designed that advanced at the time. But he said, listen, I can envision those forms. And I put them in those drawings and in that. And if somebody, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they will discover that and they can use them, go ahead and use them. And that's really the lesson of the so-called architecture drawings. As you could see from the architecture drawings in our first, there were very few of my students interested in that. I don't know why. In pursuing that line. Okay, so you have the architecture drawings, so you have not letters, but you have, real architectural forms. Some of them are clearly architectural forms. But perhaps it was too easy. I don't know why. But they can be the architecture resulting from the architecture drawings of Marcel Janco, and even more, the shapes, the forms, the architecture forms resulting from the alphabet. They are state of the top, because that's how architecture is being done right now. So it's not a miracle. What was the other question? Amazing project, so contemporary and modern. It proves that Dada's ideas are universal. Exactly. I'm sure that if Marcel Janco lived in our days, he would work like this. Well, let's hope he's not. He would have approved our project. At least I'm not sure. I'd like to ask Ioan a question. Say, please, what is the impact of architecture from society? Well, I answered that. It's Mr. Irușal. Bună seara, bună ziua. That's my students. So one new message. How did Marcel Janco use the numbers in his architecture forms? Mr. Nakshu, who was my student, is asking me a tricky question. I do not know how he used the numbers. My students who are working on this Kabbalah project now, they believe, okay? And the way they are doing is very cautious. So even if they are not right, the project is still valid. They're working with sephirots and all this very complicated, if you ask me. We have examples of working with sephirots without necessarily being involved in their meaning, like Umberto Eco, who wrote a novel, which is built according to sephirots. It's called Foucault's Pendulum. So I wish them good luck. Yeah. Other questions? Do we have other questions? No?
Okay, so if there are no more questions,
We did an exhibition, Mrs. Oma, if I may. We did an exhibition in New York at the Romanian Cultural Center in New York in 2003 with the first images that I showed you. Okay.
Do you have models from some of
We can make models. What is more interesting if we could do an exhibition of processes, like screens, and each of those processes that are designed by my student to keep on, producing them, because it's a process of morphogenesis, and they have to understand the genesis part of it. The result is interesting, but not always. But the process is absolutely fascinating.
If you're in the mood for an exhibition, we are there too, and we'll discuss it.
Absolutely, I'm always in the mood, ma'am.
Good. So I'd like, first of all, to thank you, Professor Dr. Ioan Augustin, for the marvelous presentation. I want to remind you, especially our guests from Romania, that if you are students of architecture, you have to join us next week. The next lecture, is not on Tuesday. It's going to be on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And the week you can get the link in our website. There is one link for Tuesday and one for Wednesday. Use the one for Wednesday. It's again 6 p.m. and it's the same time, right? We share the same time, and it's of course by Professor Dr. Maria Zehariada, and the title is Marcel Janco, Contribution to Modern Architecture in Romania. And we hope to see you again. And thank you very much.
Thank you everybody for your patience anyway.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you now. Bye-bye.
Mulțumim.